I never thought I'd find myself here. Not like this. When I first signed up for the military, I was full of the usual naive enthusiasm. I had dreams of serving my country, of being part of something bigger, something that mattered. I didn't expect to get involved in something like this. I don't even know how to begin. It's been weeks since I came back, but I can't shake what happened, what they made me see. What I had to see. I can still hear it. That sound. The sound that followed me, that hunted me. And the smell. God, the smell. It haunts me at night, when I close my eyes. Even now, as I sit here in the quiet of my room, I can't escape it. You probably think I'm crazy. Hell, I thought I was crazy too at first. But I've seen things. Things that have shaken the very foundation of what I thought was real. Things that no one should ever see. No one. It started in the middle of nowhere. I was stationed at a base deep in the Nevada desert, a place no one really talks about. The kind of place you only hear about in rumors and conspiracy theories. Area 51. Yeah, that one. The stories they tell about the place. The ones about aliens and UFOs. It's not just talk. That's what they wanted me to believe. At first, I thought I was just another recruit, assigned to a secretive base for mundane military duties. I wasn't prepared for the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. And trust me, I can't unsee what I've seen. My name is Sergeant Daniel Chase, and this is my story. The truth about Area 51. It was supposed to be just another routine check-in. A quick round through the gates and into the compound for my security detail. Easy work. Standard procedure. The kind of thing I'd done hundreds of times before, but as soon as I stepped onto the base that day, something was off. The air felt thick, as though it was saturated with tension. Everyone was acting strange. The officers, the scientists, the engineers, they all had this weird, nervous energy about them. It was like they were all keeping something from me, something I wasn't supposed to know. I'd seen the way they'd look at me when I passed by, whispering to each other in hushed tones. The rumors had already started to surface among the other soldiers. You hear anything about the new project? Some kind of classified experiment. Real hush-hush. Why do they keep bringing in civilians? It's like they know too much already. I heard it all, but I didn't give it much thought at the time. It wasn't my place to ask questions. I was just a soldier, a cog in the machine. But the whispers grew louder, more frantic. And then, one night, they sent me on a mission that would change everything. I didn't think anything of it at first. It was a standard escort mission. I was told to accompany a group of civilians, scientists, researchers, who were being transferred to one of the more remote sections of the base. A part of the base that, up until that moment, I hadn't even known existed. The further we went into the compound, the more I felt the eerie weight of secrecy pressing down on me. The air was colder here, almost uncomfortably so. The walls of the corridors were sterile and white, with no windows to the outside world. It was as though the place existed in its own little bubble, a place where time and reality itself didn't seem to matter. The civilians were acting strange, too. They were nervous, fidgeting in ways that made my instincts prick up. The kind of behavior you see when someone knows they're about to face something they can't control, something that's beyond them. Something they know they won't be able to walk away from. As we walked deeper into the heart of the base, I began to notice the subtle changes. The hallway lights flickered in a way that made my skin crawl. The deeper we went, the more I began to feel like we were being watched. The air grew colder, the shadows longer, and then we reached it. The door. The door that was locked, guarded, and had a sense of finality about it. The kind of door that, when opened, would change everything. The civilians were let inside first, disappearing into the room. I followed, but before I could cross the threshold, one of the scientists, a man named Dr. Warren, turned and gave me a look. A look I'll never forget. "Stay close, Sergeant," he said quietly. "We're going to need you." I don't know why those words sent a shiver down my spine. Maybe it was the way he said them, like he knew something I didn't. Or maybe it was because, for the first time, I felt like I wasn't over my head. I stepped inside, and that's when it all began. The room was vast, its metallic walls humming with a strange, low-frequency sound that seemed to reverberate in my chest. There were no windows here, no signs of life other than the civilians and the strange equipment they were working on. It was an eerie, almost clinical atmosphere, And then I saw it. In the center of the room, standing in a containment cell that was reinforced with steel and some kind of transparent material, was something I can't even describe without feeling a surge of panic. It was alive. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything that should have been alive. It stood on two legs, but they weren't like anything I'd seen before. Its skin was a sickly, mottled green, stretched thin over bones that seemed too long, too sharp. Its face was the worst part. It had no eyes, but it was aware of us. I could feel it watching me, studying me, even as it stood there, motionless. I remember Dr. Warren's voice. Don't stare at it for too long. It's sensitive to prolonged observation. It can influence you. Influence? What the hell did he mean by that? It wasn't until later that I understood. As the hours passed, the fear began to set in. The monster, if you could even call it that, began to make noises. Not sounds, really, but something deeper. Something that vibrated through your chest and into your very soul. It wasn't a sound you could hear with your ears, it was something you felt, and that's when it happened. I turned. There was a flash, a burst of light, and then the room seemed to warp. The air turned thick again, like it was choking me. My vision blurred. My head pounded with a sudden, unbearable pressure. When I opened my eyes, the creature was gone. I couldn't process it. One moment, it was there, standing in the cell. The next, it wasn't. The room fell silent, and for the first time since entering, I noticed the civilians were gone. The scientists, the researchers, they'd all disappeared without a trace. The walls seemed to close in around me. The lights flickered again. And then, just as I was about to turn and leave, I heard it. The low, guttural growl. I wasn't alone anymore.
I wish I could say it was just a nightmare, a hallucination, or some kind of joke. I wish I could say that what happened next didn't leave a permanent scar in my mind, but that's not the reality. What happened was real. It was as real as the blood pumping in my veins, as real as the pain that gnaws at my sanity every night. After I heard that growl, deep, vibrating through the floor beneath my feet, I froze. My heart felt like it had stopped altogether. The sound was unlike anything I had ever heard before, primal and full of hunger. The kind of growl you hear in the wild, when something is about to chase you down. Something that only lives to consume. I shouldn't have turned around, but I did. When I did, I saw nothing at first, just the empty room, the sterile walls and floors, the cold, fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. I thought maybe I was losing my mind, that I had imagined the growl, but deep down, I knew it wasn't a trick of my mind. That's when I heard it again, click, the sound of something heavy shifting in the dark. It came from the far corner of the room. The spot where the walls curved into the darkness. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. I could feel the weight of its presence creeping up on me, the way the air seemed to shift and contract around me, suffocating me. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. I couldn't look away, couldn't take my eyes off that corner, as if I was being drawn toward it. That's when I saw it. A flash of movement, too quick for my mind to fully process. Something dark, something wrong, crawling along the walls. Its shape didn't belong in the world I knew, its body twisting in unnatural ways, its limbs elongating and contracting like a grotesque insect. It was moving, but it was wrong. So wrong. It wasn't like any creature I'd ever seen, even in the wilds of the darkest. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in that sterile room. Time felt like it was slipping away, like it no longer mattered. The low growl echoed again, louder this time, and my heartbeat drummed in my ears. The thing in the corner of the room was closer now. I could feel it, sense it, as if it were inside my body, twisting and turning beneath my skin. Then, in the darkness of that corner, the creature emerged. It wasn't a creature, not in the way you'd think. It wasn't a simple monster, with claws or fangs. It didn't follow any laws of nature that I understood. It was fluid. Slippery, shifting in and out of space like it didn't even belong in this dimension. Its limbs twisted and contorted at impossible angles, long and thin, black as pitch. Its face was a blur, shifting in a grotesque mosaic of shapes that constantly morphed, never staying the same. I couldn't look away. No matter how much I wanted to turn and run, my legs were rooted to the ground. My heart was hammering in my chest, my breath shallow, but my mind felt like it was slipping away, sinking into the depths of whatever hell this thing had come from. Its body seemed to dissolve in the shadows, only to reappear inches closer. It moved like smoke in the air, like liquid darkness flowing across the room. And all the while, its presence pressed in on me, suffocating me, pushing me deeper into the abyss of my own mind. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice whispered, and it wasn't the creature. It was them. Dr. Warren. The others. The ones who had set this all in motion. Their words had been clear. Their warnings had been there, buried beneath the thick layers of secrecy and denial. They had known what was coming. They had known what this thing could do. "You're just like the others," Dr. Warren's voice continued, distant yet close. "You think you can control it. You think you can understand it. But you can't. You'll never understand it. You'll never escape it." The creature stopped moving for a moment, and for one fleeting second, I thought I might be able to break free. But then, the air thickened again, and the thing's tendrils shot out from the darkness, wrapping around me with a force that sent a searing pain through my chest. I gasped, my breath caught in my throat as the creature's tendrils tightened, digging into my skin. It wasn't just physical. It was mental. I could feel it inside my skull, burrowing into my thoughts, twisting them, turning them into something ugly, something foreign. I could feel the madness creeping into my mind, filling every corner of it, pushing out everything I knew to be true, and that's when I heard the whispers. Thousands of them, overlapping and indistinct. They were all around me, in the walls, in the air, in the very ground beneath me. I couldn't understand the words. But I could feel the message. The terror. The desperation. The voices of all those who had encountered it before me, who had fallen to this creature's power. I could hear them, and I could feel myself slipping away. I gasped, but my voice barely made it out. "I can't." The pain in my chest was unbearable, a sensation like my ribs were cracking under pressure. My legs buckled, and I collapsed onto the cold floor, gasping for breath. I could hear the creature moving around me, its eerie whisper of tendrils scraping against the floor, the faint sound of its growing hunger. But then, just as I thought I would lose consciousness, something happened. Something I didn't understand. A sudden flash of light filled the room, and for the briefest moment, I saw the faces of the scientists. They were standing in the doorway, their eyes wide, filled with terror. They were trying to pull me away, trying to save me, but they were too late. I felt it. The creature's power was reaching its peak. It had been feeding, growing stronger with every moment. I knew then that it was beyond anything we could fight. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't even a creature from our world. It was something else. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting in the darkness for centuries. The last thing I remember was the feeling of its cold tendrils pulling me into the darkness, into a place I couldn't escape. Into a place where nothing could survive. I woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. My body was bruised, battered, and my mind was shattered. They told me I had been unconscious, that I had suffered a breakdown. They told me I had been hallucinating, that it wasn't real. But I knew the truth. I knew what I had seen. What we had all seen. When I asked about the others, about the civilians and scientists who had been with me, they told me there were no records of them. That they had never existed, but they had. I remember their faces. I remember their screams. They told me I had to forget. They told me it was a classified incident, something I couldn't talk about. They told me that I couldn't ever tell anyone the truth. But I can't forget. I can't erase the images of the creature, the terror it caused. I can't stop hearing those whispers. They'll follow me forever, clawing at my sanity, reminding me of the darkness beneath our world. It's still out there. I know it is. I know they'll never stop hiding it. They'll never let anyone find out what really happened at Area 51. The truth is buried, hidden away, and anyone who dares to uncover it, they're just like I was. They're just like all the others. They'll never come back.